All right, how's it going, y'all? Filming this video on Sunday morning. I just got the text that the gates won't open at 9 a.m. as originally scheduled. I just wanted to talk a little bit about day one of the Chicago Street Race. Also, I have to talk really quiet because I'm staying with some extended family and some folks are still sleeping. But because I'm not sure if day two, Sunday, of the Chicago Street Race event is actually going to happen or is going to look anything like day one did, I at least wanted to talk a little bit about day one and share some of the clips I filmed at the track. I'm planning to do like a full vlog today during the Cup race, but again, with the weather, I have no idea what is or isn't going to happen at this point. So I at least wanted to do a little check-in, a short just conversation. This is a little different than a typical episode of my show that I usually do. I wrote down sort of a pros and cons list after yesterday, but I want to preface this by saying this event, the Chicago Street Race event, is not for someone like me. I am already a huge NASCAR fan. When I go to the racetrack, I want to watch the race. I want to study the comers and goers, who has speed, who's struggling to find it. I'm not nearly as interested in the music festival component of this event as I think many casual fans, probably I'd say, I don't know about the majority, but many of the folks who probably bought tickets were swayed by acts like the Chainsmokers and Miranda Lambert being on the ticket. That's not me. I go to a race to see a race. I knew this event was not for me going in, but I decided, as you can see, I bought a wristband. I decided to come anyways, largely because I knew I had a free place to stay here. That helped. I also just love visiting Chicago. I don't think I'd ever live in Chicago. I'm too accustomed to the humid Texas heat. I don't think I could do the wintry, cold Chicago winters. But I do love to visit Chicago. I love to go full tourist. I love to eat some deep dish pizza, go see a Cubs game at Wrigley, walk up and down Michigan Avenue. There's a lot about the city of Chicago I really do enjoy visiting. It is cool to explore. So between all those factors, I decided, hey, it's the first and potentially the only street race in NASCAR Cup Series history. I decided it was worth coming, worth risking the logistical nightmare, the weather, as we've obviously seen now, to see this inaugural event. But now that we're basically a half day into it was supposed to be a 2-day event, I want to share some footage I took and some of my sort of pros and cons after seeing this event firsthand. And again, once eventually the full event is completed, if they have to postpone to tomorrow, we'll be there. Once the full event is completed, I'll do a full video and show you guys my POV at the Chicago Street Race. But for now, starting with the pros, location is great. As far as like amenities, it was awesome. We were able to Uber to a couple blocks away from the venue. We were able to go get Starbucks for breakfast yesterday, get a coffee, walk a couple blocks to the racetrack, go through Butler Field, through the main entrance. It was all seamless, really super duper convenient. I know a lot of fans I talked to are staying at nearby hotels within walking distance. There's no other NASCAR track that I can think of with numerous hotels where the majority of fans are able to walk to said venue. So, that is a pro of being in the city. You're bringing the race, you're bringing NASCAR to the people as opposed to the people having to find out where's Joliet, Illinois. Chicagoland's 45, 50 minutes away. That's a hike compared to a 5-minute walk like the Chicago Street Race is. I also have to say, when walking to the track yesterday, there are tons of signage welcoming race fans to Chicago, promoting the Chicago Street Race. I was shocked by the number of businesses that had little checkered flag decorations all outside their buildings and signs that said, "Welcome NASCAR fans." Block after block, you couldn't take 5 steps without seeing something, either official or unofficial, promoting the Chicago Street Race. So in that respect, I think that was a huge win for NASCAR. And as a NASCAR fan who enjoys seeing NASCAR represented in the wild, it's fun to see, puts a smile on my face. Once you actually swipe your little ticket here and get into the actual venue, again, this was just Saturday. I don't know if Sunday is or is not going to look any different, but I'll say I thought there was plenty of space to spread out. Grant Park is huge. In some ways, and maybe this is kind of a negative, I guess, it almost felt a little sparse. parks. Like you had your Ford, Chevy, Toyota displays, you had a McDonald's display, I think Jose Cuervo, you had some merch tents, you had a big like NASCAR merch, like big top, like there were things, but it was, a lot of them were very spaced out, spread out, so it felt very open. I think that it's a good thing, you know, plenty of space to spread out. It's easy to get claustrophobic when you're walking around a big city. Never really felt that way aside from maybe a couple of bottleneck points going over some of the catwalks over the track. But other than that, I thought things were spaced out really nicely and you had space to relax. So to me, that's a pro. And my last pro, I'll say for now, at least, were concession prices. Very reasonable, especially by sporting event standards. You know, I went to the Clash at LA where it was $7 or $8 for a bottle of water. It was like $3.95 here, which isn't great, but for a sporting event, that's pretty typical. And they had plenty of refillable water stations all around the venue. So, you know, I was able to pick up a slice of Lou Malnati's deep dish. It was pretty good still for like $8, which, yeah, I know that it is expensive, but I also went to a game at Wrigley the other day where a soda was $7, $8. The Chicago Street Race was cheaper. Let me just say that. Let me put it that way. Now for some of the cons, and many of these cons are going to focus on the cancellations and the way Chicago apparently handles severe weather in the city. But before I get to that, one con, and this goes back to, you know, who is the target audience of this event? I've known since the beginning, I'm not the target audience. It's meant for the very casual race fan, someone who's maybe just looking to give NASCAR a try, just a taste for the first time. But as someone who really cares about the racing and wants to have great views of the on-track action, that's a negative. There are really no good views of the track here in Chicago. That is unless you live in one of the condos or you're staying in one of the hotels that overlook the course. I think they probably had the best seat in the house. We were sitting in the grandstands over by turn 11 and, you know, great views of the buildings with skyscrapers looming over the racing surface. But as far as how much racing you can see from there, very, very little. And there's like one big screen jumbotron off in the distance that you can kind of see to keep up with what's going on. But the view of the racing, by far the worst I've seen at any NASCAR track that I've been to. Walking around during practice and qualifying, there were some cool general admission viewing areas, but again, you're right up against the fence. The cars are like eye level with you. Like, that's cool. You can't really follow the race easily from there. From what I could tell, maybe some of the like big time suites for the truly exclusive VIPs that were overlooked like the front stretch and other parts, they might have had the best view where you could see like a full straightaway, maybe even part of another straightaway, that like sort of part of the track where I think it's like turn 1 and turn 6 where they kind of go past each other different directions. Like maybe you have a better view of that so you can see more of the track, but I'm telling you, from at least turn 11, couldn't see hardly any racing. And the few general admission spots I checked out, like, get glimpses, sure, but it's difficult to follow the action. So if you're going to the Chicago Street Race, or really, and I know this is common, I've never been to another street race, but I know this is common at street races, it's hard to follow the action. Harder than like at Charlotte Motor Speedway or Bristol, where it's an oval, it's right there, it's in your lap basically. It's certainly different. Going to Nashville last week, comparing that with Chicago, it's a completely different race viewing experience. And certainly, my opinion, Chicago, no surprise, much worse. But I guess I want to focus now on the weather because that's what Twitter was blown up about yesterday, whenever Twitter was actually working for people. This event, I think, had a lot of positive momentum going for it until the lightning delay. And I understand why lightning delays exist. This isn't the point of my video, is to critique, you know, lightning policy. I mean, safety first. I completely understand that. But NASCAR's policy, and I think they base this off of, I don't know, maybe US policy, some sort of government policy, is that if there's a lightning strike within 8 miles of the venue, that results in a 30-minute hold. And they encourage people to leave the grandstand, spotters and cameramen come down off the roof, seek shelter, take precaution. But if there's no lightning strikes after 30 minutes, assuming we still have daylight, assuming everything's good, they go back racing, because NASCAR's #1 priority is always to get the race done the day it was scheduled to be done. Chicago, from what I understand reading Jeff Gluck from The Athletic, his tweets, as well as a few other reporters, what they've been discussing is that Chicago's policy is that if there's really any threat of severe weather to one of their parks, because it's a typical public park, there's not really naturally any good shelter there, they evacuate. They evacuate the parks. So yesterday, it barely rained, but because there were lightning strikes within 8 miles and the potential threat of some other showers and potentially more lightning coming down the line, That's why the entire park, the entire venue was evacuated before NASCAR even officially called the race or said, hey, the Xfinity race has been postponed. So that was confusing to me as a NASCAR fan who's not used to operations going this way, but from what I've read from local Chicagoans, that's actually kind of common. It's frustrating, but like that's affected other major Chicago events as well, this same policy. It was extremely frustrating though, only because, you know, I hung around Michigan Avenue for a couple hours after the race, went and had dinner, walked around, did a little shopping, and not a drop of rain. I don't even think there was any lightning in the vicinity. It felt like the city jumped the gun. I understand policy is policy, but this is sort of just the caveat of racing in a city circuit, you know, racing within city limits, is you have to play by their rules. And cities, downtowns have way more rules than even the suburbs or the countryside where most other NASCAR tracks sit. In Martinsville, Virginia, NASCAR makes the rules. In Grant Park, no, it's Chicago. It's the city government. They make the rules. NASCAR's forced to play by them. But the thing that really gets me wasn't that, you know, the race was postponed. That happens, whatever. But the Chainsmokers concert getting canceled, not rescheduled, straight up canceled. Personally, not a big deal. Again, I came to see the racing. Chainsmokers, yeah, I would have stopped by, I would have checked it out. I heard them on the radio in middle or high school. Like, yeah, cool, I would have checked it out for sure. That's not why I went. But there were plenty of fans there, again, who are just looking to give NASCAR a try, just a taste for the first time ever, where the Chainsmokers, top of the billing there, probably the #1 reason they bought tickets. And they're not playing now. These tickets started at $269 for weekend general admission. I imagine there are some maybe potential NASCAR fans who are probably, I don't know, burnt out now. Or let's just say this event left a bad taste in their mouth, whether it's NASCAR's fault or not. It's not NASCAR's fault, let me make that clear. It's Chicago's fault. It's just the fault of their policy, which maybe isn't necessarily bad policy, but it's frustrating in this case. I'll just leave it at that. I don't go to music festivals. My understanding is no refunds are given for things like this. You can buy sometimes like weather insurance. But if you didn't do that, and I don't even know if that was offered in this case, you're kind of out of luck. Anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say, as someone who's invested in NASCAR, both personally and professionally, I mean, when I go to like a party or a wedding, people know me as the NASCAR guy. That's how I quickly become introduced. So I have a stake. I'm interested in how this sport does, how this event goes, because this is the most mainstream attention NASCAR has gotten, I guess, since Garage 56 a few weeks ago. But you know, this season, these last few weeks, are the most mainstream attention NASCAR's gotten in quite some time. And so I want to see it put its best foot forward. I want to see fans who are trying NASCAR out for the first time come away with a positive impression. I want them to have a good time. And between the weather, Chicago's policy around its parks, concert being canceled, headlining concert being canceled, it just, man, the wind has been taken from this event's sails quickly. The balloon has been popped, and that is a shame. But I guess they're going to still try to race later today. I think gates will open later this morning. I'll probably get there a little later. I'm not about to trudge through, there's literally my phone here in Chicago and Cook County here. We're in Cook County, right? I think that's what county this is. It just gave me a flash flood warning, so I'm not about to trudge through that until the weather is at least slightly dissipated. But I guess, yeah, that's just my perspective. There were some great things I saw yesterday. I saw fans poking their heads out of buildings to catch a glimpse of the action, fans climbing up on barricades, or not barricades, but climbing up on like cars and other structures outside the facility to try and peek in to see the cars on track. Like, the city knows NASCAR is here. I just wish the weather would cooperate, give the sport a break, give us fans a break. I guess I just wanted to turn the camera on and vent for like 15 minutes. I appreciate you watching and listening this far. But I guess that's all I've got. I'll be back. Hopefully I'll get to catch some of the Xfinity race today in person. I'll watch it on TV if not, but I'll definitely be there for the Cup race, and I'll film as much as I can to kind of document the full experience. Hopefully this gave you a taste of what we've seen so far, and I will see you again very soon. Stay dry out there, y'all. Have a good time.